Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Construct Strategically, Yarns with Andy. Today I've actually got a very unorthodox guest on my podcast, Drew Knowles. He's the Director of Influential You, and he works with large organizations, business leaders of large organizations, and he's got a superpower. Let's hear from Drew.
Yeah, great to be here. Hi, everybody. Yeah,
hey, mate.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I'm excited about today's episode. I suppose my superpower, what I've done for 25 years now, is work in the human behaviour, human performance space. Right. I've trained, coached, advised, tens of thousands of humans of all kinds around all different areas of life. And in the last really decade, I've specialised around the sort of mental performance aspect, around stress and how that affects people. And then with the company I have now, Influential You, around how to have people be more influential, not like a Instagram influencer, but how do you get better buy-in? Essentially, my tagline is, how do you help people get along better? Which is kind of what we're going to explore today.
100%. The reason I'm really excited to have you today is because construction industry is one of the few industries that's stressed out as fuck.
Big time. Exactly.
Sorry, I couldn't find another word. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the stats, the stats kind of speak for themselves. Yeah. We have the most amount of suicides in any...
Is that right? I thought it was actually like medical doctors was up there, but you're probably correct. Yeah.
We have the most amount of divorces in the construction industry. These are all stats that are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really why I'm actually excited to have you on today, mate.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And I suppose one of the things I'm interested to get into is just, as we were saying earlier, like there's obviously a source to kind of all that stress, and I've got my own views of it and my own opinions and of observing it and just being on the coalface of dealing with the fallout of exactly what you said. Like I used to, in the past, with a lot of senior leaders, the best clients that would come to me, and these are like CEOs and executives of some of New Zealand's largest companies, was when they were the most broken, which sounds terrible, but like they're so open to change, but they're also, their wife or husband's hating on them, or they're getting separated. The doctors said you need to be on this medication, that medication for depression or anxiety or whatever it is, which they don't want to do. They've been to counsel, the kids not seeing their kids, all that sort of stuff, and they just have no idea
how to deal with
what's going on. Like they're almost like a robot, and they've got to that level of position, almost like a machine, and they've never stopped to just kind of go, what the heck am I doing? And am I doing it the best way possible? And, how do I deal with all these issues that are coming up? I mean, they're crushing it, and often crushing it in their job.
Sounds a bit like me. You're describing me here.
Yours for different reasons, my friend. Yours.
I'm just sitting down there relating the whole thing back to me, and I'm good.
You've got to handle it a lot better than the people I'm talking about, that's for sure.
Right. No, I don't think so, mate.
But what's your experience? Because you're in the, you're like right in the coalface of that. What sort of stuff do you see, and what are the common themes, I think, because that'll help me start to maybe unpack stuff and explore the sorts of behaviours that you see.
Yep. So from my perspective, it's quite interesting, right? So I get to go on all these construction sites, meet with the team on site, because what I do is controls and planning.
That's right.
So I have to work with the team on site to actually understand the scope of work, articulate the entire plan, multiple pieces of paper, and communicate that very clearly, because that's all I focus on is clear, effective communication.
Yeah, it's your superpower.
But that's my superpower, right? But in that process, all I see is just people completely stressed all the time, right?
Yeah.
The amount of stress they carry is incredible. Doesn't matter which job site I go onto, it's always the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've always sat and tried to identify, where does that stress originate from? How can you actually try and minimize the levels of stress on site so you get better outputs, better productivity?
Yeah.
Truth be told, I haven't been very successful in identifying where that stress originates from, but the team's common.
Yeah, and we can. I think. See what you do, because I understand quite a bit about what you do. Is my version of it is, you come in and you start to pull apart and try and remove a lot of the complexity that's just been built in from not accurate thinking, terrible scope of job.
Correct.
I could go on about I don't know the right language.
It's a structured
it's
planning.
like, and experiences you've had, we've told me, where they're like, nah, this is not good enough, your proposal, get the time down shorter. And you're like, no, because the job's going to take this long, and I can tell you from experience. And then sure enough, you're right. But they're refusing. Like, it's like, no, we can't have it take that long. You're like, what do you want? Magic wand or something like that? And so I'd say one of the places that I observe, and this is not just in your industry, is when what humans tend to do is they come up with the ideas, they go, oh, here's the problem, here's all the ideas we could do to solve it, and here's the general plan. Like, this is what we're going to do. This is the idea of how we're going to do it. And then instead of slowing down enough to get all the people involved communicated with and bought into whatever the initiative is or the project is, and this may sound like so simple, but I can tell you it's just human nature to not do this very well, that meeting of the minds around what's getting presented, in the sense of building that subjective picture in the mind of, this is the scope of the project, it's going to require this sort of, these sorts of people and this sort of activity, and really getting clear, not just on paper, as in the written down, and here we go. It's actually getting, the human beings brought into it, and the involvement, because what tends to happen is it goes from the idea of it and the general, like, yep, this is the direction we're going to go, we've mapped it all out, now let's just go make the results happen. In our we've got a cycle that we use where people jump straight to the results we need, then they drive everyone into action, and then everyone's commitment is dealt with afterwards, whether you're working hard enough or you're committed enough or you're doing the job, rather than properly formed intentions and people being able to actually articulate what they're expected to do and how long it's going to take, and do they have it in their schedule, do they have the, like as we've talked, do they have the resources? Because if you don't deal with all that resource up front, and the limitations of resources, including human, tangible, intangible, then you're going to have a job in the construction industry that is immediately fraught with complexity, because no one knows exactly what's going on or what they're doing, or they get into it. And I love that line in the movie The Martian, or the book, no plan survives first contact with implementation. Right. So I think
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, this is where you pick it up at implementation with bad planning. And so I think when humans commit themselves to things that they haven't actually properly considered or thought out and looked at the consequence everywhere else, then you just immediately put a load of stress that is, becomes more than people can handle. That's my general sense of it. And then when you spike up...
But that's 100% true though. I mean, every job site I go to, there is quite a lot of firefighting going on all the time. Yeah. How do you, say I was a project manager for a complex project. Say $150, $200 million project. Not massive, decent size. How would I go about stopping firefighting and pausing, looking at the bigger picture?
I mean,
what's the one piece of advice you give me?
Well, I think it would start with that particular person. If they're, call them the leader of the project. Like, first and foremost, using some expert help, like in your case. Like, I know, done a bit of work with companies like Heb and some other big companies where it's just, the same sort of thing. And if they brought someone like you in, or they had someone there that was able to go, like, be the skeptic. Like, the one big problem is when people play that role of the skeptic, and they're basically saying, no, it's not going to work, and watch out for this, and be careful. They get dismissed, right? Too much of that gets dismissed. You're holding everything up. But what the person, I think, would need to do is be willing enough to slow down and really, rather than in their own head with their own view of things and their own biases, like, yeah, we can do this. Because that's often what gets happened. You kind of get excited. Like, the neurochemicals of excitement are like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. We're all go. This project's going to be super exciting, but it's all the freaking idea of it. Nothing exists yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's all in their head. And so to slow down a bit and go, let's properly, get everyone able to articulate. That's what I mean. Like, if you can't, we have a saying in our organization, if you can't say it, you can't do it. it's, you know, you can argue semantics, you know,
Yep.
if you were to do some weird involuntary movement like, oh, like I didn't say that, but I can do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you can't articulate something, you can't do it, or you can't do it to a really good ability. And I would have to assert, and I'm not in your industry, but that it would be time and time and time again, there's this big leap from the concept or idea and the vision of a project and actually the kind of use of the resources and having those resources properly brought in. And so if you're a really good project manager, you will develop a bit of capacity to fight off those who are pushing you to get it done faster, better, and actually slow down in the beginning.
Yeah.
And to speed up later, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
how much does that
firefighting
firefighting cost productivity?
Massive.
The word margin erosion, I've got a colleague, John Bagent, who's on our faculty as well, and he specializes in margin erosion in the construction industry. And so he's told me story after story after story of just when, you know, things are not properly thought out, like the stuff you do where you scope the whole thing.
Yep.
Then you have this contractor can't do their job on that day, which flows off to that can't do it on that day, and and now you've got
Death
millions
by
and
1,000
millions and
cuts.
millions. Exactly.
Death by
so
1,000 cuts.
I think
yeah.
the you know, the biggest advice I could give to someone who's like a project manager is slow the fuck down and you know, think accurately, like really, because you will save yourself so much stress if you actually
Let me expand on that a little bit more. Okay.
Now I could be
So
saying
let's say,
stuff
let's
that's just like, oh,
no, it's cool. No, it's
impossible,
cool. It's cool. It's great advice. Great advice. But I'm just putting myself in a project manager's shoes, right? So I'm the project manager. I'm getting hammered, right? Because I'm the only one accountable for time, for cost, for health and safety, for quality. You keep going. I'm accountable for everything.
That's right.
That accountability doesn't cascade down. That's a critical issue we have in the industry. Understand that, right? But now I'm getting hammered. Health and safety guy telling me, oh, there's things, health and safety is not proper on site. I've got the quality guy coming and telling me, your documentation's not in place, right? And then I've got the directors of the company yelling at me going, oh, you're late. You're not on time, you know? So, and then you got the QSs going, we've got 20 variations that need your attention. How do I deal with all of that?
And my question to you would be then, why would a health and safety person be coming to you and saying, oh, that's not thought out? And why would, like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
right.
Because now we're already down the track.
Yeah.
So you've got shitloads of job security because it's going to keep happening where you've got to come in and go, I've got to fix this because it's a mess. I think the place it's got to start is in the invention of these projects, like when they're actually being
rolled out.
Yeah, invented, conceived. That part, like there's a whole lot of.
So right at the very beginning,
when
the
the whole
clients
methodology, like we use where say you've got your aim called we want to build this building. You know,
but that's only the client's perspective. Everybody's got different drivers in the industry. You need to understand that, right? So client's going, I've got money, I want to build something. Oh, cool. Let's hire an architect. Yep. He's going to come up with a beautiful design that's compliant with the code. Yep. Awesome, right? Yep. And then what the client to do is go hire a project management company and go, I don't know anything about project management. You go, Mr. Project Manager, manage this project for me and put it out to tender, right? And then I don't think there are a lot of people in project management companies today that have actually had real life job experiences on site, right? They're just people who fancy degrees, cool suits, awesome. Yeah, let's dig into it.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly, right? Okay, and they come up with a version of a methodology and a version of how long the project's going to take, and they provide that advice to the client, and the client goes to the bank and says, I need X amount of money for X amount of time. In all reality, then they go out to tender, and then they force the main contractor to fit within their time frame and within their budget.
Yeah.
Before this, I've never mapped all of that out. I just did that now. But
yeah, that's the stuff you have to come and fix, right?
But that's the thing, right? So that's your point of origin for all of that stress leading into the main contractor. The main contractor go, I kind of need that job to keep my people employed.
That's right.
So I'm gonna take that job up. I'll work it out. I'll build in efficiencies into the.
And what happens though?
You tell me, Drew.
Well, I mean,
I know what happens.
Exactly.
nine out of 10 people.
9 out of 10. That's right.
What happens.
So I think partly, this is the point of your podcast, is to start educating people on. And I kind of hate this saying because it's so overused, but it's that, was it not Edison or whoever it was, Einstein? If you do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result,
You're not going to get one.
you're an idiot, right?
100%. Yeah.
And I suppose there's probably no real answer to this problem.
No.
But maybe it's regulatory, because the fact that you said people have got money, go, I want to invest it, I want to do a building, I want to do a project.
Yeah.
And they're the ones in some ways directing things. They've got the aim called, I want to create this building. Somewhere in there needs to be, somebody who can actually buffer from the beginning, go, hold on. Now, if you're going to create this $300 million building, we need to look really accurately, first of all, at resources or the current facts, right? And having them realize that this is where the market's at, this is where supply chain's at, yada, yada, yada. This is where the economy's at with builders and contract and all of this, do that real accurate kind of getting the floor of where are things at now if I'm to consider building that thing.
Right.
Secondly, an inventory. This is what a lot of people do not do, an inventory of limited resources.
We suffer from that in New Zealand all the time.
Just an inventory of what human resources do I have or need, what tangible, what intangible, looking at what do I have available. That's not really the
client's problem though, is it?
It is.
Wow.
Well, it's the client's
problem. He's paying somebody to get rid of that problem for him.
But what ends up happening to the client when this contractor promises the earth and the moon and the stars and it all goes belly up? Does it affect the client, or does it do they lose money, or are they sort of golden in all of this, and they just basically get what they wanted?
Well, I've got this beautiful thing called NZ3910.
What is it?
NZ3910.
What does that mean?
That's the standard form of New Zealand construction contract.
And what happens in that?
It's a very interesting contract where most of that risk really is passed downhill.
Right. So then it really is. So I mean, that's even better, because it's one thing to be able to get in front of these investors and things like that, but they're probably all over the place and who knows where they come from. But if it falls on the next line, then surely there's ways to educate and have those people be able to, have a bit of a way to say to the client, look, kind of with all due respect, if you want this $300 million building, then we need to, seriously consider the consent, or whatever you've got from the bank doesn't match what's going to happen in reality. So never does. And how? I mean,
truth be told, Drew, I've never written a program in my entire life, or my working life for 14 years, that's finished on time or under budget. It's either ahead or it's late.
Yeah.
So
I mean, a little bit delayed's fine, right?
But a little bit ahead's fine too.
Yeah. But what we're talking about, and you've said this, you just over and over and over, it's just, I mean, you just see what's in the media, all the stuff that happened with Fletcher's and all this sort of stuff is just a symptom of people, and this is coming back to that whole thing, individuals accepting commitments, committing to stuff, committing to activities called building a building, where they have not at all thought through the full scope, the actual plan, the actual resources required. And you said it just before, they go, we'll just make this work.
Yeah, but
so how do you, I think, coming all the way kind of back to what you were saying earlier, is how do you start to solve this problem?
Yeah.
I think it's continuing to campaign for and really educate these people who are the ones who are going to accept these jobs.
Yeah. Or
but
based on
having them
9 times out of 10, they are accepting these jobs of a 60% design.
That's right.
And therein starts the real problem.
And do they learn from the pain? When does the pain get enough? And, often it's like you've got to show them the pain from before sufficiently enough, right, that they are hesitant to move in the same way they moved.
But there's not enough time to learn from the pain, right? one project is enough to send your company under.
That's right.
You see, Armstrong Downs is a company that went down under. Mainzeal before that. I keep naming companies all along. It just doesn't end.
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
a list of construction companies. It's just going broke. But what are we doing about that whole aspect as a nation? I don't know yet. But that's
Talking
why
about it right now.
talking about it right now.
That's
That's why I'm here talking about it too.
Exactly.
I mean, the podcast. That's why I became a consultant.
Well, how much of New Zealand's workforce do you think would be involved in the construction industry? And I mean like far-reaching, like from contractors to like a company like Fletcher's, or like we'd be talking hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders employed.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands.
And
So I think I did the numbers before I started. I was doing some analysis to see if I wanted to become a consultant or not. I was debating the challenge. I think there was about 360,000, if I'm not wrong, give or take.
Yeah.
About 300,000.
That's a decent percentage of the New Zealand workforce.
Yeah.
So I think it's starting to then look at if it is true, which kind of is, that a majority of those people are stretched, stressed out, having divorces and, you know, trouble with their kids and not able to be home and working too long hours and, you know, all that stuff that goes with it, mental instability, just all the stuff that I see all the time that comes with it, is how do you start to, you know, get the message to that broader audience that that it's actually, holy crap, if we don't deal with that 360,000 that are in that bucket. Now, they're not all going to be like that.
Yeah.
But if we don't start to deal with that, you're talking substantial costs
100%.
across the board.
But the one good thing is we actually have Mates in Construction, who's an organisation that have set up to deal with parts of those issues, I believe.
Good.
Yeah.
And
so there's change happening, but not fast enough, I don't believe.
And so if we were to go then further up the chain, because we're talking about maybe like talking about some of the bigger contractors, right? I'll say Fletcher's as an example, just because they're an obvious one for me, is that, or you know, you can say another company.
There are only 3 or 4 big contractors, mate.
Yeah, and so
there's Fletcher's, there's Downers, there's.
If you look at who's at the top, you know, sometimes it's, you know, I've got some other examples of other companies where I'm hearing all sorts of horrible stories that, I suppose they don't shock me, but we're talking, you know, bullying, bad behaviour, just inconsiderate of the consequence, like that whole saying, the fish stinks at the head, right? Like, and you talk about culture, when there are HR managers and, you know, people who are senior enabling this bad behaviour at the top, as in, you know, I've heard all sorts of stories of people going, like, you know, I'll give you what you want, but don't do a personal grievance, like all these sorts of things where...
Can we talk about a real life scenario that happened in my life and try and uncover it? So I used to work for this big organisation, which is great. Got given, I mean, for all the work that I did, they gave me an award, which is awesome.
Fantastic.
Yep. Time went on, I got promoted, and then I got put into this really complex project in town. Really complex project. Step into the job, and the project director goes, I need a program of works that says we're going to finish by middle of 23. So this is, a few years ago. And at first I laughed. I thought it was a joke.
As in, because you already knew that it was never going to happen by that point.
Yeah. And then he was serious. And then I thought he was smoking pot. I was like, what's going on here? But it was a serious situation. He was like, no, we'll finish by 2023. I sat down there. I said, I didn't know if I was missing something. I said, wait, mate, I'll get back to you. Right? So went away for a week and went through the drawings and went through all the outstanding scope of work and what needed to be done and how we're going to get there, what the process was in place, and do your due diligence, right?
Yeah.
Did that for a week, and I had a small team of people, and we went through the whole lot, and I said, 2025 at best.
Wow.
I'm going 2025 is still.
You mean like a 24-month difference?
Yep. And then the project director was adamant that we will complete by 2023. And I'm here debating logic, and I'm going, no, we're not going to get there. There's no way we'll get there. And I whiteboarded, do what I do, and I started mapping out 3 different paths to get to 2023. And I said, at 2023, you won't be 60% done. So.
And is that because you couldn't throw enough resources at it to
It's not just resources. It's the sequence of how you build things.
That's what I'm saying. As in, like, even if you got more people and more, like, as in just literally structure, timeline wise, it couldn't be done by then.
Unless and until you started fast tracking approvals. You started,
cool. Yeah,
and then
you somehow
started,
got all the bureaucracy out of the way, and you just essentially be able to do whatever you want.
Even if you get bureaucracy out of the way, you've still got rules of gravity. Right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay.
All of that stuff, and you got logistics problems. You got all of that, and worked it out, and you said no way. But why I'm telling you this background story is I kind of ended up in a situation that was really uncomfortable for me, right? And I said I'm not going to give you a program, put my reputation on the line, and tell you that we're going to finish by 2023.
Yeah.
Right? It was direct, immediate conflict from that point in time.
Yeah.
From that point in time, messages went upstream saying, Andy's a bad planner. He has no idea what he's doing. And he's very difficult to deal with. I just became this person that was... But all I was doing was I was holding my ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't see anything wrong in that. I was like, I believe this to be true, and I've got evidence to back up this is true. But that went on for 16 weeks in my life.
Wow. And
16 weeks.
Did the project get done by 2023?
It will definitely not.
Oh, sorry, it's not 2023 yet.
Not yet, but yeah.
Do you know if it's on track or online for 2023?
I keep a very close eye on that project.
Of course you do, I would.
I keep a very, very close eye on that project. There's no way they'll even complete by mid-25, I believe, at this point in time.
Yeah, wow. And
so because of the COVID impact added to it.
And my memory of it is you actually ended up leaving.
I did end up leaving. That was the birth of strategic planning, actually.
Yeah, good.
So the birth of strategic planning was if directors like that can exist and push a message down your throat when they don't want to listen to logic or reason, I believe I'm better off
And what do you
myself.
think, and if you go up top, I know we've got to wrap up, to the people who would have been going, nah, not good enough, what is their motivation, do you think? Because they're obviously experienced in what they do, surely. They're not stupid people. They can't be in those positions without some experience of projects failing and all that sort of stuff. Is it a blind, no, we need to deliver to the shareholders and too bad, so sad, make it happen?
I'm not
putting your head in the sand, or I'll get my bonuses if I put this plan through because it's a 3-year plan. I'll get bonus on the scope of it happening.
You're just delaying a problem. You're delaying the inevitable.
But do you think they actually know and they're unwilling to say so?
I don't know. I just think we as New Zealanders are afraid of conflict.
Definitely.
Or having a conversation that just called hard truth.
Yeah.
And having a very difficult conversation.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing that I campaign for all the time is we need more of that skepticism and critical, analytical people in our lives.
Yeah.
But we've got weak muscles in dealing with that negative side of the exchange.
Yeah.
Big, strong muscles in positive, be enthusiastic, rah.
It's great.
Really weak muscles in dealing with, and this is the thing for me, is maybe my mission is to flip the script of, we're not having conflict.
Yeah.
This is not conflict. This is just a opposite side of the exchange here called, I'm not going to fluff it up and make it all look pretty.
Yeah.
I'm just going to point out some things that are preservational, protective, feel a little negative, feel like I'm putting the handbrake on.
Yeah.
But that's it's not actually negative. Like you said, it's just some hard truths.
Yeah, it's a hard truth.
It's
backed up by evidence.
And we just need to, I think, as a species, or even especially, here's deal with a little bit more, or get more muscle in being able to not just accept, but actually welcome that healthy skepticism.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, and I did this speech for a friend of mine at her presentation mastery course, it was called, because I go and speak for her clients, it was called Why the World Needs Less Enthusiasm, Inspiration, and Excitement. It was a really fun one.
Interesting.
But it was a whole speech about the more skeptical side of life, that we don't deal with it. And all I did was look up on Google, world's global disasters that could have been averted. Horrifying. Really? Almost all of the world's global disasters could have been averted if the people like you and those who are going, hang on, this is not going to turn out, watch out, be careful, but they get dismissed.
Yeah.
So I do think there's merit in people at higher levels developing a little bit more of a thick skin to be like, no, people like, Andy, come in, give us the
The cold hard
Give
truth.
us the bad news.
Yeah.
Tell us that we're completely off. Let's
Yeah.
figure this out. So that's not happening.
Yeah.
But hence why I said there's shitloads of job security for you, because people are going to keep doing it until they get educated on not.
Truth be told, every time I walk into a job, I'm working on exit strategy. I'm literally going, how am I going to get out of here as soon as possible?
Yeah, that's
adding the
right.
most amount of value, leave.
That's right.
I don't want to stay here for any more than I have to. I've done that when I was a full-time employee too. You know, I work towards my redundancy.
That's a good plan. It's a good way to do it. Well, then you can make more of an impact as well.
Yeah, I mean, and then the company's got to find something to do with me because I've just outgrown my purpose and they don't let me go. It's real interesting, man.
Good
Different way of
position
thinking.
to be in.
Yeah, but hey, mate, I think we are over time. And it's been really great having
Yeah,
you
loved
aboard.
it.
And mate, I'll tell you what, I've signed up to you now as well, and I'm looking forward to
appreciate that.
all the help I can get.
Absolutely. And I just, as I said, I've got a few partners I want to thank. Is Chemicorp is a company that is really partnering with me now.
Cool.
And Raw Essentials, if you like raw pet food,
Yeah.
is a company that I'm
Nice.
very involved in. Real
Yeah.
smart guy who runs that. And I just want to say thanks to the Attention Seeker because they make it happen with us. So
Oh, with both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much
Cheers,
for your time,
man.
bro.
Fantastic.
Cheers, mate. Bye.